Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We are born with the karma of our parents, and then we are subject to the influences of our surroundings. So we have our inherent karma, and we have the karma that we pick up through the people that we meet and through the circumstances that we go through. With karma comes a certain kind of arrogance that you're also born with. At the time of inception, as soon as the mind begins to work, there is this loss of understanding that we are derivative and that we were created, and we think that we can do. And as we grow up, we are taught that we can do, and we are taught what we can do, and we are taught how to do things. And in that process of our education from the time that we're young, we believe that we are actually the doers. That somehow, if you got an A in a test, you did it, and it's something to be very proud of, something that you accomplished. And pride is part of our karma. Self-importance is part of our karma. Egocentricity is part of our karma. And if you combine egocentricity with arrogance, you get a being who pushes his way through the world thinking that he makes his own way. Only if we encounter a being who knows truth and understands truth and knows the way of Allah and understands the way of Allah, can we begin to learn about reality. Our egocentric, arrogant view of the world is illusory. It's made up, and it has no basis in reality. To transfer from this egocentric, arrogant world where we are in charge to reality, there has to be a change in our worldview and a change in the way we understand things, a change in the way that we see things, a change in the way we give credit to things. As long as our egocentric nature maintains a place in our consciousness that is at the forefront of our consciousness, as long as arrogance rides with that, we are lost in the deception that we create our own way and that we do things on our own. It's only when we begin to realize that everything that we do, see, hear, and understand is a gift that is given to us, and that we inherently should be incredibly grateful for, we then have the capacity to understand reality. Imagine one person here thinks they are moving their way through the world and accomplishing everything that they're accomplishing. On the other hand, there's another person who understands that his sight is a gift, his hearing is a gift, his sense of smell and touch and taste are all gifts that were given to him. Who gave those gifts? Where did those gifts come from? And why were they given? Once you realize that everything that you have was given to you as opposed to made for you, and you become really deep in that understanding, you begin to understand that there is your will in the egocentric sense, in the arrogant sense, and then there's another will. The will of an insan kamil, the will of a true human being. And the will of a true human being has surrendered to Allah. And then the true human being moves forward doing Allah's will. And the difference there is that the egocentric, arrogant will is driven by mind and desire, and is connected to mind and desire, and lives within the ocean of illusion, which is where mind and desire live. But to enter into reality, you have to cross the ocean of illusion, which is the mind, and get to the other side. And what's the other side? The other side is when you have bypassed the interference of the mind in your existence. The mind is elemental, deals with that which is elemental, and is incapable of understanding God and God's qualities. They can only be understood through the heart. They can only be understood through that part of you that is vacant of mind and desire. And as long as mind and desire are within the equation, then you are egocentric, arrogant, and driven by your egocentricity and your arrogance. And you believe that you are doing things on behalf of yourself, by yourself. When you begin to understand that everything that we have is a gift, everything that we know is given to us, then you begin to understand that we aren't the one that's driving the bus. So the question is, who is driving the bus? Who is the one that's in charge? And how does it work? All of us are born with the karma of self-motive. Self-motive means basically that we do things on behalf of ourselves to somehow try and make ourselves more and to satisfy our desire-based needs that come from our mind. As long as we are in that place, we don't have the time or the inclination to think about anything else because we're too busy being pushed to fulfill our desires. And they take the forefront of our existence. So, if you're somebody who's been raised that wealth is important, you may spend your entire life chasing wealth. If you're somebody who's been raised to believe that education is important, you may spend your entire time getting degrees in esoteric subjects like the life of the butterfly. You may even write books about them. You may even go around the world studying them until you run into a caterpillar that's poisonous, and that's the end of your journey. But the desire-driven life cannot understand reality. As long as your focus is towards that which is elemental, your life is tied to the elemental, and it exists within the realm called illusion. To escape the realm of illusion, you have to change the focus of your being. And so you have to take the focus of your being and change it from that which is elemental to that which is not elemental. Now, this isn't hard to explain or even conceptualize. It's just hard to do. So instead of wanting things like cars and houses and money and women and men and elemental things, you want things that are non-elemental. And what's non-elemental? Well, we all know that God is not elemental, and God's qualities are not elemental. Love, compassion, mercy, justice can't be weighed and measured. They're not elemental. Yet they are more real than that which is elemental, except for those who can't see it. Even in religion, there are those who their entire religion is ritual and performing ritualistic, elemental kinds of performances. To sit still and not do anything, but to go to the place of love and kindness in your being is not a part of many religions. It's not a part of many lifestyles. But we need to somehow focus on that which is from Allah. And we need to surrender to that. So instead of surrendering to our desires and our needs for the elemental things in the world, if we can surrender to justice, if we can surrender to mercy, if we can surrender to kindness, if we can surrender to those qualities which are the qualities of Allah, our life changes. Now, each of us has a will, and we use this will to accomplish what we think is important. We use this will to get jobs. We use this will to find a wife or a husband or to stay single. We use this will to do things within the world. Now, some things within the world are very hard to do. You may want to become the richest man in the world. It's not going to happen that easily. Not that many people can do that. You may wish to become a movie star. You may not be able to do it. It's not such an easy thing to do. There are many things within this elemental world that are not easy to accomplish. Yet people spend their life trying to accomplish them. the fact that in the end, these things aren't important and have very little bearing on the state of your consciousness is not something that enters into the mind of those who are chasing those things, because they've made them important. But if you are born without money, if you are raised poor, even if you have no education, you can be kind. You can be merciful. You can, in every circumstance, try to help whoever you run into to the best of your ability. You don't have to be wealthy to smile. You don't have to be important in the worldly sense to assist other people. You don't have to be somebody with titles and with degrees in order to enter into the realm of Allah. And this is available to everybody, no matter what their circumstances are. In the English language in business, there's a term called barriers to entry, which means that you can't do this unless you have a certain amount of education or a certain amount of wealth or a certain kind of specific knowledge and training to do that. Well, there are no barriers to entry into Allah's realm. The only barriers are your own egocentricity and your own arrogance. The barriers are the qualities that you carry that are an antithesis of Allah's qualities. So the barriers to entry into Allah's realm is yourself. And in order to enter into Allah's realm, you have to rid yourself of all of the things that stop you from being kind, that stop you from being merciful. I was with Bawa one time when he was talking about horoscopes and how people were looking at their horoscopes and trying to predict what was going to happen next to them and where they were going and what was going on. And he said, the horoscope is only impactful and only has meaning if you're tied to the elemental world, because the horoscope is a predictor of the elemental world, but it's not a predictor, nor does it have impact on Allah's world. It's a predictor of your karmic self, but not of your holy self. So you can step outside of the realm of the influence of these kinds of things if you step into the world of Allah. But what happens is we have difficulty relying on the unseen, even though we know at the heart of things that the things that we've accomplished, we accomplished not because of our own will. We've accomplished because of some kind of divine intervention. And it just happened to us. It was given to us. It was put out before us. Now, arrogance will not allow you to see that. Your mind and desire will not allow you to understand that. But if you can strip yourself of your self-importance, if you can strip yourself of your self-motive, you'll begin to see that everything that happens to us has a divine push, has a divine way, has a divine path, and is programmed for us, not by ourselves, but by our Lord. And when we begin to believe that, a lot of things change in our own life. When you're trying constantly to get something done, things happen when it doesn't go the way you want it to go. You enter into realms of frustration. You enter into realms of anxiety. You enter into realms of anger. You enter into realms of resentment. All of a sudden, you begin to pick up all of the qualities that are elemental and are contrary to God's qualities. But if you are capable of accepting that whatever is going on is the way it's supposed to be, and you have the patience to watch what's going on and see what's next without preconditions, your life will become much easier. If you can be content because you're kind, you have a good chance of becoming content if you can be kind. If you can be content because you know, my God, I'm becoming more merciful. What a great joy in my life. I'm becoming more kind. What a great joy in my life. I'm becoming more compassionate. I'm easier to get along with. I'm nicer to people. Things begin to change. But as long as we build up this wall of egocentricity, where everything is important, that's important is about us, then we get our pride hurt. We get our sense of self hurt. We become resentful to anybody who doesn't respect us the way we think we should be respected. One of the things that almost all holy men talk about is the release of the self and the release of the attachment to the self. As long as we hold on to this self, we can't be free to enter into reality. Because this self is not real. So if you're trying to hold on to illusion and enter reality at the same time, you can't do it. You can't be real and non-real simultaneously. We have to choose. Do we want the pride and arrogance, selfishness of being us, ourselves, or are we willing to give that all up to be part of reality, to be part of Allah, to be part of the truth? Imagine, over time, this body dissipates and it begins to fall apart. Over even more time, it disappears. Well, when it disappears, what's left? Well, we can talk about the soul and we can talk about consciousness. But the point is that it is an entirely different phenomenon than what we see when we look in the mirror. We wear a suit, or like for instance right now I'm wearing a sweater. But underneath this sweater, I have a shirt, and underneath this shirt I have another covering. It's called skin, but it's a covering. It's not a lot different than this sweater. And just as this sweater is going to disappear over time, that skin covering that I'm wearing is going to disappear over time. Why are we so entranced by the temporary that it clouds and blinds us to the eternal? What is it that makes us love the temporary so much that we are blind to the eternal? We have to think about that. What is it that makes us love the temporary so much that it blinds us from the eternal? And part of that is our lack of vision, our lack of foresight, our lack of seeing into the future, our inability, to where we think where we are right now is where we will always be. Well, it's a lie. And it's the great lie in this world. Nobody sees their own demise. And because they don't see their own demise, they drive on as if that demise was not real. Well, that demise is more real than anything that you see. And when you begin to understand that, you can begin to understand that you aren't calling the shots in this world. You aren't calling the way things occur. The Quran says, if I have given anybody long life, it is certainly an exception. Allah has set the rules. Allah has created what this life is like and what it's about. We have to learn those rules and those understandings. But instead, we have created our own illusory set of standards and rules for existence that we believe in more strong than we believe in the truth. And it's only when we meet men who speak the truth that we are sort of shocked into real consciousness, shocked into understanding that what we've thought all our lives isn't real. Napoleon thought he was going to conquer the world. It wasn't real. He had a lot of power, but he didn't conquer the world. Hitler thought he was going to conquer the world. Mao thought he was going to conquer the world. Stalin thought he was going to conquer the world. Lots of people thought they were going to conquer the world. They're all dead. It's not like that. And we should be able to learn from the examples of the ones who've disappeared. We should learn from the examples of the ones who were bad and from the examples of the ones who were good. Read St. Francis of Assisi. Read Ibn Arabi. Read Jalaluddin Rumi. And then also read the masters of the world. Read Hitler's ideas. Read Mao's ideas. Read Marx's ideas. And what you'll find as the big difference is the masters of the truth talk about the qualities of God. The masters of illusion talk about how to conquer the world and how to grab hold of as much of the world as you can and how to do it. There is a whole world of lies out there and a whole group of proponents of those lies who are constantly spewing the fact that there is something of worth within the illusory world. There's something for you to grab onto and to run with. And then there are the saints who tell you the only chance that you have for freedom is to give up the world. The only chance for freedom that you have is to surrender to the qualities that are God. And if we wish to follow the path of liberation, we have to follow the path of surrendering our will to the truth, surrendering our will to Allah's will, to disappearing into Allah's will. Otherwise, we stay trapped within the chains of this illusory world. And we have this choice to make, and we have to make it almost every day. Every day we start over. Every day we begin again. Every day we make the same decisions, and we either choose the world or we choose God. And this is a constant choice that is before us. We have to pray that the choice we make is the right choice, that our inclination is towards God, that our desire is not towards the world, but towards God's qualities. And if we can do that consistently, we will be freed, we will understand the truth, and we will find our way through this life in an appropriate way. May it be so for each of us. Ameen, Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.